is the NFC North's best quarterback. And my take was, no, we're getting into a discussion, if you count everything, that Caleb Williams may very quickly be the best quarterback. You've got to count everything with a quarterback, including the cost. Not including what a quarterback costs. There's a reason the Bills have no Pro Bowlers on defense and the Bears have a stacked roster. It's because Caleb Williams costs $10 million a year. It's a 3.5% cap hit. Lamar Jackson's going to be a 25% cap hit. If you count mobility and health and arm and lack of turnovers, this year he corrected negative plays. It's Caleb Williams. I don't care about resume. I'm not into past celebrations or past failures. I'm into projecting 2026 Labor Day weekend. Is Caleb the best quarterback in the league? Because discussing quarterbacks without also acknowledging the cost is like doing your family budget when you sit down with your wife and not counting the Maserati you bought last year without asking her. Yeah, it's going to kind of screw up the budget. Not going to have a nanny this year. Not going to be going to the movies much. Forget second vacation. Can't afford one. I looked up the stats this morning. Only one quarterback in the league had more big-time throws, 20-plus throws, than Caleb Williams. It wasn't Josh Allen, Mahomes, and it wasn't Lamar Jackson. Caleb Williams has the lowest interception rate since he entered the league, better than Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, and Josh Allen. He is now officially the fastest quarterback on clock, better than Lamar, faster than Josh Allen. And oh, by the way, he also had the longest completion in the league last year. So if you count everything and you have to count cost, there is a reason Drake May, Bo Nix, Caleb Williams have really good rosters, and the Buffalo Bills don't have a Pro Bowler, or why the Chiefs' O-line and run game stinks.
Okay, honestly, I think this take is all over the place because now we're talking about nannies and Maseratis. But also, Matthew Stafford had the most big-time throws with 47. Dak Prescott was 31. Bo Nix was 31. Sam Darnold, 29. Trevor Lawrence, 29. Baker Mayfield, 28. Caleb Williams, 28. So I'm not so sure what he means, honestly, by that. Also, I don't think we should be grading quarterbacks by just the amount of big-time throws they have because it all depends on the offense you're running and what you're looking to accomplish. Dak Prescott had 31 big-time throws. He didn't make the playoffs. How'd that work out for him? Baker Mayfield had 28 big-time throws, didn't make the playoffs. So, I think stats like that need to be put into context. If we look at last season's big-time throw, Joe Burrow was 38, Josh Allen's 37, Justin Herbert 33, Sam Darnold 33, Lamar Jackson 30, Geno Smith 28. I don't see any of the Super Bowl quarterbacks in there. I don't think we even have, outside of Josh Allen, we have one conference championship quarterback. And if we go back in 23, so again, like all these stats all need really targeted context added in 2023. The two quarterbacks, you had Brock Purdy at 10th, Patrick Mahomes at 12th, but 9 and up did not get to the playoffs, or did not get to a Super Bowl. 2023, the AFC Championship game was the Chiefs and the Ravens. Lamar Jackson's not there, and it was the 49ers and the Lions. Jared Goff is not there. You understand what I'm saying? Like that. So if you want to look at some of these very specific metrics as your foundational argument, it's a little bit of a losing battle. Tua Tagovailoa had 35 big-time throws in 2023. A clears throat. I don't think Colin was arguing that he was this awesome, top elite, great quarterback. So, and now we're factoring in money. Like it's a different conversation. It really is, because I do that as well, right? I made lists where I said, what quarterbacks would you want when factoring in age, health, money and whatnot. And that is where you make the argument that, like, you're better off having Drake May, Caleb Williams, etc., over Patrick Mahomes, over Lamar, etc. And people get really upset at that take. Like people get really upset at that take, and they're like, imagine picking Caleb and Drake May over Mahomes, who's won 3 Super Bowl, and it's just like, it has nothing to do with that. You're missing the point. You're missing the point of the conversation. But I feel as though the way how this is being constructed right now, I don't know, man, doesn't feel inherently right or inherently accurate right now. I said this a couple years ago, and I was so spot on. I don't mean to brag, but I was so spot on. I said, it's clear to me how badly people want the Chicago Bears fan base. And Colin even had multiple people on his show that pretty much said that the NFL wants us. And if you remember the way how the schedule was broken down, and Colin was like, I think the NFL wants to help Caleb Williams because they want to be great. They want the Chicago market and this, that, and the third. And, seeing the views that I was getting and the conversations and the engagement that I was getting with the Chicago Bears. And I said to you guys, you're going to get a lot of crazy, you're going to get just a ton of content surrounding Caleb and the Bears, and it's going to be difficult to sift through because it's just going to be absolute mayhem. And right on cue, Nick says Caleb Williams is going to be an MVP candidate and they're going to the Super Bowl. And I was like, I had a whole video where I was like, guys, I will, without a shadow of a doubt, get more views and more engagement if I say that. If I say I think Caleb Williams is going to the Super Bowl and in this, that, and people will be like, oh my God, yeah, let's go. Like you and I was like, I'm not going to do that. I was like, I'm not going to have that conversation. I'm going to try to have the most accurate, grounded conversations that I possibly can. So when the time does come, if I say, I think Caleb Williams is the best quarterback in the NFL, I think the Chicago Bears are going to win the Super Bowl, it means something. It means something because you can trust that it's, I'm actually trying to be accurate and I'm trying to be grounded in the analysis and my observations. And that's why I've consistently said, even Caleb now, 2026 goal, greatest offense ever. And what have I consistently said, since week 3 of last season, that if Caleb hits his layups, this becomes, I just use the Kansas City Chiefs as a reference point of like 2018, 2019, whatever, when their offense was all powered and just, oh my gosh, what are we seeing? I think it was technically one of, depending on what metric you want to use, I think I forget what metric they use. It was a more weirder one. But essentially the Patriots are number 1, and I think the Chiefs are 2 or 3. But like the Colts, until they fell off a cliff, like they were number 1. And because Nick was like, well, I don't think that the Colts offense is better than the undefeated Patriots. But I think technically it's down, in the books that the Patriots had the best, that undefeated season, that they had the best offense ever. And I'm not going to go far that back or try to parse out what does it actually mean to have the greatest offense ever. And that's why I just referenced the 2018 Kansas City Chiefs, or whatever season you want to grab, that you felt that the Chiefs were the best version of themselves, because really actually when they won the Super Bowl in 2019, Patrick Mahomes' numbers got dropped significantly. His touchdown passes got cut literally in half, right? So it's not always about putting up insane numbers necessarily. But I just think that is what's on the table for the Chicago Bears. I think that's Caleb's version of saying that. I know some people can take a statement like that in either direction in terms of like, well, why are you saying that? Kind of like when he had his goal. I mean, listen, didn't he have his goal to throw for 4,000 yards and 70% completion percentage? And he missed that by a wide mark and from a completion percentage perspective. And the problem is that, like when I made another video, someone was like, oh, this is ridiculous. His completion percentage is only bad because of the drop passes, and these are the advanced analytics that you want to look at more, because it's just not true when factoring in drops and throwaways. He was bottom in the NFL. He was down there with Marcus Mariota, who doesn't count. Cam Ward, who is a rookie, doesn't count. Jake Browning back doesn't count. Shatter Sanders doesn't count. Dylan Gabriel doesn't count. Brady Cook doesn't count. Davis Mills. But for all actual legitimate full functioning starting quarterbacks with at least just 5 games worth of experience, Caleb Williams was at the bottom. That's just the reality. That's just the reality. When he corrects that, that's when you then can become one of the greatest offenses ever. But to try to paint the picture right now that Caleb Williams is the best quarterback in the NFL, I don't know, man. You're cooking the books pretty hard right now. You're cooking the books pretty hard right now, and saying Josh Allen didn't have the most big time throws last season, and it's just like he didn't have the pieces. Is like Lamar Jackson played like half the season, and Lamar Jackson's offense isn't really predicated on big time throws in that regard, because of his mobility. So it's just like, it's like, wait, what? I mean, Stafford led the league, as we saw, in big time throws, and quite frankly, it was because he was throwing wide open in receivers all day, every day. I'm like, a lot of that is Pukenaku and Devontae and Sean McVay and Stafford, but it's a collaboration. I guarantee you, Josh Allen would have a lot more big time throws if he had Puka Nacua, Devontae, and Sean McVay. So I just that's why I kind of take issue with some of those takes. And I get at the heart of it. Colin just wants to be able to elevate Caleb Williams significantly. But like, again, before anyone jumps on me, and I'm so frustrated that I have to keep reminding everyone this because I don't want to, and I'm hopeful that we can move past it eventually, when you can just kind of get a more grounded sense. But like, I fear that I make a video like this and Colin has his take, and I'm like, okay guys, let's be a little bit smarter about this. Let's be a little bit more nuanced how we have this conversation, that I can receive a ton of pushback because people just want to hear the positives and the cheerleading. But again, make no mistake about it, this past season, going into the season and going throughout the first 3, 4, 5 weeks, like, you had people like Colin saying, this is not going to work. So that's what I'm trying to drive home here. And I said, that's ridiculous. Colin was already saying, the backup quarterback is going to be the starter, not Caleb Williams. And then within the first few weeks, he was like, this is not going to work. And now, essentially a few months later, we're saying that he's the best quarterback in the NFL. And then we're going to reference big time throws and your salary cap hit. Like, that seems messy to me personally. That seems messy to me. I think you got to find the groundedness in any of these takes. And so just like when I ripped the idea that it's not going to work, or that Caleb is to this and to that and not enough this and not enough that. And, when we were looking at I just talked about this in the comment section the other day, the footage of him throwing into a net during a drill, and it was just like, see, he's not good. Look how mad he's at himself now, right? Like, this guy can't hand, his body language is so bad, right? Then it was just like, I think when you actually demand grounded perspective and analysis, it allows you to actually ride the ups and downs more accurately. And I just think that a team like the Chicago Bears and Caleb Williams, it'll be a lot harder to consistently find that, because the fan base potential is massive. Like I said, if the fact that I don't want to, because I don't see it as me downplaying it. I see me trying to add context to this conversation. And the reality is, it's same thing with the whole MVP Super Bowl. If I come here and just from the jump say, yeah, Colin is 100% right. Caleb Williams is without a shadow of doubt the best quarterback in the NFL, that lands so much more smoothly and so much more easily, and allows, videos to pop, and allows the comment section like, oh dude, this guy is so smart, I'm subscribing. And I'm just like, if you think I'm only going to just be a cheerleader and say nothing but positives and not try to add any other context, well then, like, you're in the wrong place in that regard. So, and I just think that this is an example of that right now. And it's not to say that Caleb won't be the best quarterback in the NFL, or that he won't have the greatest offense ever. So, yeah, I don't know. It's a weird one for me right now, but those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Chicago Bears and Caleb Williams? Do you think he's the best quarterback in the NFL right now? And do you think it's realistic that in 2026, Caleb Williams can have the greatest offense ever? Let me know your thoughts. I read every single comment, so you agree with me or disagree with me. Either way, let's get some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here and absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all generally feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.